Hi and welcome back to our bite-sized tutorials on income generation for schools. I'm Justin Smith, and this short introductory video will look at encouraging donations to support your school projects and making the most of gift aid. So firstly, how do we define a donation? Well, donations are voluntary, they're non-refundable, and they don't result in goods or services being provided. The charity sector in the UK generates over £46 billion in donations every year, of which 30% directly supports projects that improve the lives of children. And many of us, of course, donate to our favourite charities every year, and these organisations are very adept at eliciting a positive emotional response from their campaigns. Engaging with our supporters on an emotional level is really key, and more schools than ever are developing sophisticated and creative ways of doing just that. Many of us working in education understand the power of building relationships with our potential donors. Engaging with an audience on an emotional level certainly brings responses. And if you've put together your fundraising plan and your strategy, you've identified your projects that you'd like to prioritise and fundraise for, you're now ready to start developing those narratives, the storytelling. Potentially, a narrative is effectively a storytelling to a third party, and potential donors, remember, may or may not know your school particularly well, and they may not know your campaign especially well. So you need to set the scene first and explain clearly why their support is so important and the difference it can make. Explain the impact of the project on your school, the children and the wider community. So we're taking our potential supporters, our donors, along with us on our fundraising journey. And we work, of course, in a human-centric industry, so demonstrate clearly what impact your project will have on your pupils. Use pictures, images and video clips if you can. Include statements of support, testimonials, case studies, graphs, photos, whatever you can to bring your story to life. You'll need to win the battle of hearts and minds if you're going to be successful. And remember, focus on the outcomes, not the resources you need to achieve those outcomes. I remember in a school I worked in, I had a project and I managed to secure some lottery funding and parental donations for that initiative. And essentially we needed computers and IT equipment, furniture and the redecoration of a classroom. Now, my application wasn't all about desks and computers, it focused on the need for a basic skills computing club for parents and for the children. So to summarise the first point, support is far more likely if you have a strong narrative to tell. Tell the story, demonstrate the impact and the need, and bring your supporters with you on this journey. Next, it's important to remove the barriers of support. So what do I mean by that? Well, in other words, how can you make it as simple as possible for potential donors to contribute and support your project? Use your website as the first port of call to promote your campaigns. So on your homepage, if you had a specific tab that said support us or our projects, for example, you can hang everything off there. So your crowdfunding campaign can go in there. And the idea is to make your campaigns really visible and easy to find and support. So you can provide online donations and downloadable gift aid forms and all that sort of thing from that tab. Lots of schools are doing this and some really good examples out there. Just two examples for you to perhaps have a look at. Sheringham Woodfield School in North Norfolk and Tiffin School in Surrey. Both of those have websites where they've got online donations and support for campaigns. So now we're going to consider gift aid. Gift aid is one of the key ways that the government encourages charitable giving. So the government is essentially giving back to the charity the income tax that the donor has already paid on their donation. By using the gift aid scheme, donors can increase the value of their donations by 25%, so that's basically 25p obviously in every pound donated, at no extra cost to the donor or the charity. But this doesn't happen automatically, so your school needs to be a registered charity and the charity has to make the claims back through the gift aid system. While many donations made to school charities are eligible for gift aid, it often goes unclaimed as many charities are unaware that they can claim or they feel the gift aid is just too complicated. If you go onto the government website, gov.com, you'll find lots of information about gift aid, downloadable forms and everything you need to set things up from there. And remember, if your PTA or your friends group earns over £5,000 every year, then they must register as a charity and they can claim gift aid. There are also some generous time limits here, so charities can claim retrospectively within 4 years after the tax year or the accounting period in which the donation was made, so that's worth considering. So here are a couple of real-life examples of gift aid in practice in your school. So maybe you had a non-uniform day, and as long as all pupils are allowed to wear the non-uniform, whether or not they have made a donation, then payments received can be regarded as charitable donations. If you had a building appeal, perhaps a school charity may launch an appeal to raise funds for a new building, say a new sports hall, as long as there's no connection between who gets access to the hall and which parents donate, then the funds donated can probably be regarded as charitable donations. However, if there is a link, then the donations are not charitable. So I hope you found this short tutorial useful. On my website there's some additional resources, including a PowerPoint presentation specifically about gift aid, setting out some other scenarios about when you can claim and when you can't and that sort of thing. But thank you very much for joining me, and in the deeper dive session we'll go into this topic in further detail. Thank you.